September 2nd, 2001, Adult Swim came onto the scene with this cavalcade of programming not seen bundled together before. Cartoons geared towards adults and older teens, these bizarre remixes of Hanna-Barbera classics, and the United States introduction to the smoothest anime of all time. Adult Swim was pushing the limits of network television, single-handedly shifting the humor and taste of an entire generation. My name is Shane O'Hare from Geekscape Games, and come along with me as I look back at the craziest programming block on TV. Seeing the Adult Swim block for the first time was a truly jaw-dropping experience for me. At 12 years old, the closest thing I had seen to the Adult Swim style was The Simpsons and Dragon Ball Z without the blood edited out. Watching the Toonami Midnight Run blocks always gave me this taboo feeling. You're telling me that the pilots from Gundam Wing curse, and there's all this extra blood in Dragon Ball Z? This is insane! I don't think I was ready for Adult Swim. Not to sound too dramatic, but Adult Swim was a huge shift for myself, altering my humor for the rest of my life, for better or for worse ultimately. After watching the first airing way back in September of 2001, I distinctly remember going to school the next morning, all geared up to talk about what I saw the night before. I was in 7th grade in this newly built middle school that somehow managed to botch their order of desks and chairs. We were all forced to sit on the floor for class. My friends and myself were all in a row waiting for the bell to ring for class to start, and I looked over and shouted loudly, "See? I told you I was right. You all watched Adult Swim. I wasn't making it up." Let me explain. I was always a night owl growing up, never going to bed on time and constantly being tired in school the next morning. It wasn't uncommon for me to be up till 3 a.m. watching Cartoon Network, unable to sleep. Dreading the following morning at school, which would ultimately be too boring to stay engaged with. I'd sleep through English class, go to lunch, stumble through math, stay droned out on the bus ride home just in time to catch some Toonami before passing out at 4 p.m., just to start the cycle all over again. One of these cliche late nights in 6th grade, I was watching some overnight programming on Cartoon Network. Flintstones or Looney Tunes or whatever, it doesn't really matter. The same old shows that kept the existential thoughts of my own mortality at bay. Suddenly, at around the 3 a.m. time slot, an intro for a new cartoon came on. Some show called C-Lab 2021. I checked the TV guide and it said nothing. Just the normal Looney Tunes. I had no idea what this was all about. My interests were instantly piqued. I gotta see what this is. What I saw shocked me. I immediately recognized the old Hanna-Barbera cartoon style, but this was not the cartoons from the 60s. This was rude, crude, and full of quick jokes that had me cracking up. It felt like as soon as it started, it was over, and next up, this other weird show called Aqua Teen Hunger Force came on. The bizarre characters combined with the absurd comedy had me hooked. I was used to swearing cartoons to a degree, being a fan of South Park and all, but the shock and novelty came from seeing these shows on Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network was always viewed as the safe kids channel. I wasn't way up on the dial on Comedy Central. No, I was literally watching a foul-mouthed milkshake yelling at a meatball right after watching Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny do their hunting season routine. It was surreal. The next day on the school bus, I could barely contain myself. I had to tell my friends all about these weird shows I had seen in the middle of the night. Being the only 6th grader from Colony Middle School up at 3 a.m., no one else had seen them, and nobody believed me. Nobody believed what I was telling them. And honestly, could you blame them? If you were 11 years old, would you believe your weird sleep-deprived friend when he told you he saw a show about ambulatory fast food products swearing and dismembering their neighbor? Especially if he saw it on Cartoon Network? No, you probably wouldn't. So I ultimately just moved on, keeping this random cartoon block in my memory, this dreamlike experience that I relegated to the part of my mind where other dreams went. Almost a year went by when the first ads for Adult Swim started airing. I was instantly shot back to that random Wednesday night. The commercials for the block back then were these extremely out there experiences. Footage of geriatrics floating around in a public pool backed by this remixed jazz song with a lifeguard shouting, "All kids out of the pool for Adult Swim! All kids out of the pool!" It's hard to explain how different this was back then. Borderline avant-garde camera angles, muted colors, and a style of music this young fat kid hadn't heard before. You're telling me that you can take a jazz song, add some drums and distortion, and make it a completely different tune? I was blown away. The shows back then were mostly these 15-minute affairs, quick lines and sight gags. I honestly think the team over at William Street would let any idea from outer space make it into the programming. One of the C-Lab 2021 episodes that sticks out of my mind, it had the lead character Hank sneaking off to this hidden away soda vending machine he had, down this long corridor of doors of increasing security and complexity, which honestly reminded me of the hallway from Mystery Science Theater 3000. Hank eventually made it to his prized Bebop cola machine that soon fell over on him after it ate his dollar. Then out of absolutely nowhere, this scorpion shows up and stings him. The rest of the episode has Hank stuck under the soda machine, getting daily stings from the scorpion, all for that sweet, sweet Scorpo high. Saying that out loud is such an incredible head trip. All these random components in a 15-minute cartoon shouldn't work, but they did. The script writing for these shows absolutely, without a doubt, added to the "lol, so random" era of adolescent comedy. Don't believe me? Go look up the original Boxy video that blew up on 4chan. Look at her shirt. That's right, Moonanites from Aqua Teen. The bizarre writing of C-Lab 2021, the out-of-touch cold openings from Aqua Teen featuring Dr. Weird and his assistant Steve, Brack's childlike wonder and innocence plopped right dab in the middle of Suburban Aliens. Coach McGurk from Home Movies, that alcoholic soccer coach who, let's be real, should have never been led around children. Sidebar, H. John Benjamin will always be McGurk in my mind. I always picture that fat coach when I see Archer or Bob's Burgers. Stephen Colbert's peak performance on Harvey Birdman, attorney at law, as Phil Ken Sebin, the head of 7 & 7 law firm. The classic bait and switch talk show that had real-world celebrities giving responses to the wrong questions from Space Ghost on Space Ghost Coast to Coast. All these original, fast-paced, and obtuse shows were scheduled alongside the US debut of Cowboy Bebop. On paper, again, this shouldn't have worked, but it did. These quick, in-your-face, somewhat fleeting shows worked. If they didn't work, well, we wouldn't be here 20 years later talking about them. Actually, let's talk about Cowboy Bebop and the anime as a whole that ended up on the time block. I had grown up seeing glimpses of adult anime, staying up late on weekends hoping to catch some random giant mecha anime movies on the Sci-Fi Channel, but I hadn't been exposed to an actual series from the get-go. Originally airing in Japan in 1998, Cowboy Bebop is still widely regarded as one of, if not the best anime shows of all time. 26 perfect episodes that I was addicted to from the start. We all know the opening theme song, that bass line, the saxophone and trumpets, the bongos, the intro art that is a throwback to those 1960s spy movies. Absolutely enthralling. When that first episode, Asteroid Blues, aired, it was like nothing I'd seen before. I'll never forget sitting there watching the intro and my dad walked in. He stood there and asked, "Hey, what are you watching, son?" "Hey, Dad, I'm watching this new anime. It's called Cowboy Bebop." "Wait, you're telling me one of your Japanimes has music like this? Can I watch?" My dad sat down with me and watched it, just as engrossed as I was. I can thank Adult Swim for showing me my favorite piece of media of all time and giving my father and I our new weekly ritual. This rough around the edges Vietnam era vet who, on his free time, would literally listen to audio recordings of airplane engines for fun. He walked away from his airplane model building to watch one of my shows. It opened his eyes to anime as a storytelling medium and not just a genre of bulked out dudes throwing fireballs around. When Adult Swim added their action block of shows, we were glued to the new animes they added. Big O, Lupin the Third, Trigun, the Gundam series I had never heard of, unedited episodes of Outlaw Star, Yu Yu Hakusho, Inuyasha, Tenchi Muyo, Blue Gender, Fooly Cooly, which to this day is my second favorite anime of all time. Case Closed, Witch Hunter Robin, Wolf's Rain, Evangelion, Samurai Champloo, Full Metal Alchemist, Samurai 7, Death's Note, Bleach, Sword Art Online, One Piece, and so much more. Honestly, Adult Swim's biggest cultural impact was the introduction of adult-orientated anime to the West. There is a generation of weebs out there who owe their entire identity to Adult Swim. I'd be a terrible DJ if I didn't mention the music that the network put out. The iconic programming bumpers would often air music sent in by the viewers. Legendary artist Flying Lotus blew up because of the promos made with his tracks. You could be a part of the channel you loved. The music ended up being so popular that they teamed up with MF Doom and Danger Mouse, who, under the duo name Danger Doom, made a record that featured clips and cameos from Adult Swim cartoons. I remember going to my local Fred Meyer's to pick up the Mouse and the Mask CD, speeding home and throwing it in my stereo. This record and its subsequent follow-up, Occult Hymn, was my introduction to MF Doom, who ultimately ended up as one of my favorite musical artists. May he rest in peace. Shortly after the release of Mouse and the Mask, William Street Records was born and saw the creation of some incredible works of art. William Street started releasing free EPs on their website. These EPs collected some incredible music and propelled artists into the ears of people all over the world. In high school, I took countless late-night summer drives with Chocolate Swim or the Worldwide Renewal Program blaring out of the speakers of my busted-ass Pontiac Grand Prix. The most notable and memorable release was African Swim. William Street was working on putting together a Swim release that featured African rap music, and the video game studio Ubisoft just so happened to reach out to Adult Swim. They were looking for help to promote their new upcoming game, Far Cry 2, which had its story taking place in Africa. It was a perfect dual release. I implore you, go check it out. While lost to the sands of time, a lot of those EPs are still up on the Adult Swim website. The culture impact of Adult Swim as a whole would be incomplete if we didn't talk about its revival power. They would often get canceled shows, give them a time slot and a whole new audience. And in the case of Family Guy and Futurama, get them renewed for new episodes back on Fox. The viewership was through the roof. Shows like Mission Hills, Baby Blues, The Oblongs, Karate Commandos, Pee-wee's Playhouse, Saved by the Bell, they all got exposed to a new generation that loved those weird old shows people my age grew up watching. The airing of bizarre British shows like The Mighty Boosh that gave birth to the legendary Old Greg meme, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and my personal favorite, Look Around You, an offbeat satire of educational programming from the 80s. Hell, they even brought back Toonami from the ashes to replace their action block, completely unannounced. Speaking of unannounced, Adult Swim would often put up these random April Fool's Day pranks. First, they started with episodes airing with these mustaches drawn on all the characters. Then they moved on to adding fart noises to Full Metal Alchemist and Ghost in the Shell. One year, they promised to air the entirety of the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie, and they did. But it was in a teeny tiny picture-in-picture screen on top of the regular programming. Another year, they played the movie The Room on repeat for the entire 3-hour block. Hell, they did that for 3 years in a row, each year adding different twists to the prank, with the fourth being cut short by the previously mentioned unannounced return of Toonami. Their unflinching resolve and complete lack of fear when it comes to advertising created these moments, perfect moments in time that will never be forgotten, even if they would like some of those events to be forgotten. Just go look up the botched ad campaign for Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It locked down the entire city of Boston for 2 days under the threat of a terrorist attack. Their advertising partners hung up these light brights of the Moonanites all around town. I just guess bankers from Boston can't really take a joke. 20 years later, Adult Swim and its collection of TV, music, and artwork doesn't seem like it's slowing down. I may have drifted away from the programming block in my recent years, and I may not have been a fan of every show they put out. William Street wasn't afraid of putting out content at all. Shows like 12 Ounce Mouse, something that honestly looked like it was animated in MS Paint, fit perfectly in a lineup with The Boondocks, a show that blew the envelope wide open on what racial jokes you could make on television. I may sound like a pretentious hipster, but Adult Swim is one of the most important things to happen to entertainment in the last 20 years. Forget MTV, Adult Swim is where it's at. I mean, where else can you see a show about a detective that is literally a set of ass cheeks on a pair of legs?